No, this takes him into zero.
With a real boxer, a real world champion boxer, that the only other time he was in for the fans to get mad with that was against Tommy Fury, but it wasn't that level, obviously, and all the size things you just rightfully pointed out. But he would have been in there with, it seemed crazy.
Gervonta "Tank" Davis has left fans stunned after unveiling a completely transformed physique ahead of his anticipated clash with Jake Paul. Famous for his explosive power and compact build, Davis has clearly taken his training to the next level, packing on serious muscle that's got the boxing world talking. Recent gym clips reveal a noticeably stronger, more imposing version of Tank, sparking speculation that he's gearing up to match Jake Paul's size and power punch for punch.
We were yelling so much about him fight somebody your size. His next opponent is, by far, the most credentialed guy ever fought actively in his prime. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. He fights at 135 pounds.
In preparation for his upcoming clash with Jake Paul, Gervonta "Tank" Davis has transformed his entire training camp into what looks like a full-on assault on his limits. His routine now combines intense strength sessions, brutal sparring rounds, and non-stop conditioning, all designed to support his noticeable increase in size and power. According to recent footage and reports, Davis has incorporated heavier resistance work, focusing on compound lifts to build upper body and core strength. At the same time, he's maintaining his trademark agility through speed and footwork drills. Sparring insiders say he's been facing off against larger, more physically imposing partners, even those close to heavyweight size, to help his body adapt to the kind of power and pressure he's likely to feel against Jake Paul.
Yeah, this Santa Cruz right here to get you. You can't let it burn, baby, let it burn. Mind over matter, son, mind over matter.
This is the blues.
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. I'm in the desert. Nigga trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
When the night
Camera. Oh,
Say light, camera, action.
and fighting for
Light, action, cat.
Dig down in there. Dig down in there. 10 seconds. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Remember with that gun on it? They got that gun on that tank. They go, time.
when the night is cold.
He ain't gonna keep you here late at night. Good job.
It's been hard being away from my daughter. She actually here, she sleep. Just being away from her, it was a little touchy, but I know when I'm up, up against. I know that I got pay-per-view. I know I'm fighting a tough opponent, so really I know how to lock in. I know how to shy away from everything. I know how to, I know how to fool around.
Still, Jake Paul naturally competes as a much bigger man, and the agreed-upon fight terms reflect that, with a 195-pound weight limit and both fighters using 12-ounce gloves. For Gervonta Davis, who normally campaigns around 135 pounds, that's an enormous gap to close in both size and power. The difference has sparked plenty of debate in the boxing world. Many analysts worry that adding so much mass could come at a cost, potentially dulling the very speed, precision, and explosive movement that have made Davis such a dangerous force inside the ring.
Jake Paul, Tank Davis fight got moved to Miami.
I think Jake wins.
Jake's just so big, dude.
I think Jake wins.
This is different because it's similar. It's similar to Logan versus Mayweather, but
Jake has better
Paul.
boxing.
now, obviously, is way more advanced than where Logan was at that moment in time.
I mean,
Gervonta
it's
is
just.
fucking sick.
I mean, yeah, no, but dude,
Did you
Jake,
ever watch his highlights?
Jake can
He's
crack,
nasty,
man.
bro.
He's so sick. I love that guy, bro.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skills, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. Well, no, it turns out that you don't. You just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
UFC President Dana White didn't hold back when asked about the potential matchup between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. He admitted that there isn't much genuine excitement surrounding the fight, but acknowledged that it could still serve a purpose for Davis. White pointed out that Tank has recently faced a wave of negative press and a slowdown in his career momentum outside the ring. With that in mind, Paul's lucrative offer could be the perfect opportunity for Davis to grab the spotlight again and rebuild both his profile and his bank account. While many fans question the legitimacy of the matchup, Dana believes it could still benefit Davis financially and publicly. At the same time, he emphasized that Jake Paul's physical attributes, his height, reach, and sheer size, would likely allow him to bully Davis inside the ring, leaning on him, clinching often, and taking away his space to punch. White did acknowledge Davis's technical skill and knockout power, but warned that when a fighter used a smaller opponent steps into the ring with someone of Paul's size, those advantages can disappear quickly. In the end, Dana described the possible fight less as a pure boxing contest and more as a test of whether Davis can withstand and overcome the kind of physical dominance Jake Paul would bring.
Is picking Jake Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's who I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So, I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole, and he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight, and says something to the effect that, hey, he was talking to Logan Paul and said, hey, when you were fighting Floyd, you know, there was this, you're a gigantic guy, big size difference. There was a time when Floyd Mayweather Jr. had an overhand right that landed flush on Logan Paul.
Bare knuckle fighter and former UFC standout Mike Perry didn't hold back when asked about the rumored matchup between Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul. Perry openly criticized Davis, calling the fight a cash grab rather than a true boxing challenge. He questioned whether Tank still has the same hunger and drive that once made him a world champion. According to Perry, Davis choosing to face a YouTuber-turned-boxer sends the message that he's more interested in fame and payday opportunities than in building a lasting legacy in the sport. Perry even went as far as to say that Jake Paul's dedication and work ethic might actually outshine Davis's at this point in their careers. His remarks instantly sparked heated reactions from fans and analysts alike, reigniting the ongoing debate about Gervonta Davis's motivation and mindset heading into the next phase of his career.
Jake is big, Tank has a lot of skill, but I don't think he's the same Tank that we saw the most incredible knockouts. We saw him, I mean, Lamont Roach performed great. They went to draw, and, you know, I just don't know. And Tank walked away. I don't know if he loves it enough to beat a guy who outweighs him by 80 to 100 pounds.
During the recent face-off with Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis didn't quite look like his usual, fearless self. The normally composed knockout specialist appeared a bit tense, showing subtle signs of unease that fans quickly noticed. His stiff posture, minimal eye contact, and noticeably restrained demeanor hinted that the huge size gap between him and Paul might have been weighing on his mind. Standing across from the visibly larger Jake Paul, Davis seemed to fully grasp the scale of the physical test ahead of him. Some supporters interpreted his calmness as laser-focused control, while others saw hints of hesitation, wondering if, for the first time, Tank might actually be second-guessing what he's up against.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Veteran boxing analyst Teddy Atlas also shared his take on the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis face-off, highlighting just how massive the size gap really is. With his trademark humor, Atlas quipped that Davis would practically need a step stool just to land a clean shot on Jake's chin. He went on to explain that while size and style mismatches are part of boxing, this one feels way beyond the norm. Comparing it to a hypothetical jump like Canelo Alvarez moving up to face Terence Crawford, Atlas pointed out that even Crawford was never giving up this much in height and reach. To him, the physical difference between Paul and Davis makes the whole event feel less like a fair contest and more like pure spectacle from the very start.
Things right. They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract, but I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but you know, a little different. The size difference was, I mean, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm gonna ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm gonna ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, AKA Thunder Lips. He was Thunder Lips back there. And I thought I had it right, and it was confirmed to me. It's Rocky III.
Shakur Stevenson didn't hold back when asked about the potential clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. The undefeated champion slammed the idea, calling it a mismatch that does nothing for the sport of boxing. Stevenson argued that the bout seems more like a business move than a genuine competition, saying the massive size difference between the two makes it impossible to take seriously. In his eyes, it's less about skill and legacy and more about headlines and quick paydays.
Maybe he'll fight Jake Paul instead. What do you think of that?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
I mean, I get it because at the end of the day, it's the money business, and You want to make the most money, but from what I'm hearing, he can make more money in a fight with me. And if that's the case, why not fight me?
Sure. Do you think he beats Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah. I mean,
there's a huge size advantage, though.
It is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now. And in the right situation, I also could see him become a world champion.
Really?
Leonard Ellaby shed light on the situation, explaining that Gervonta "Tank" Davis was dealing with personal issues that took priority over boxing at the time. According to Ellaby, Tank wasn't in the right mental space to chase another high-pressure fight, which is why the matchup never materialized despite fan anticipation. He added that Davis's decision to step back, and even distance himself from trainer Freddie Roach, was about protecting his peace and regaining focus rather than proving a point inside the ring.
Ellaby said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it, and he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach, and that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Jake Paul's approach to boxing has long seemed rooted in entertainment value rather than traditional competition. Instead of pursuing ranked contenders or championship belts, he carefully picks opponents who maximize attention and profits. From facing retired MMA names to calling out smaller fighters like Gervonta Davis, each matchup is designed to dominate headlines and trend across social platforms. Paul has mastered the balance between spectacle and sport, turning every fight into a media event regardless of how fair the matchup appears. A major talking point surrounding the potential Paul versus Davis bout is the dramatic difference in their physical builds. Paul, a naturally heavier athlete who has fought near the cruiserweight limit, brings clear advantages in height, reach, and overall mass. Davis, meanwhile, stands about 5 feet 5 inches and normally competes around 130 pounds, where his speed and knockout power have made him one of boxing's most explosive small division stars. The contrast between them makes the bout both intriguing and highly controversial.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight, but at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury, but it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy 1st round knockout for my
Seasoned MMA fighter Nate Diaz didn't hold back when asked about the rumored Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis bout, making it clear he couldn't care less about the matchup or its result. Diaz dismissed the event as more of a pay-per-view stunt than a genuine sporting contest. He argued that boxing has drifted too far from its roots, leaning heavily into flashy, profit-driven showcases instead of real competition. In his view, fights like this are designed for hype and sales rather than legacy or skill, which is why he finds them impossible to take seriously.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
It just. I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually.
You think
I'm
it's
not
a good
hating
fight?
on the fight, but I think. My thoughts on it is let's watch it, see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing's turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. What do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's at WWE, so
right.
like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping has voiced strong concerns about Jake Paul's choice to fight Gervonta Davis given the massive weight gap between them. He noted that Paul is essentially targeting an opponent nearly 100 pounds lighter, which completely distorts the spirit of fair competition. Bisping reminded fans that even Paul's earlier booking against Mike Tyson raised eyebrows, since Tyson is 58 and long past his prime. According to Bisping, this new matchup only reinforces a growing problem in combat sports, where spectacle often outweighs substance. Instead of building meaningful fights that define divisions or settle real rivalries, promoters seem more focused on creating viral, entertainment-driven events that blur the line between sport and show business.
That is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, oh, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word: whoa, 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 stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
Do you see this matchup as an exciting crossover event or just another publicity stunt that hurts boxing's credibility? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
Do you view this clash as a bold crossover moment for combat sports or just another headline-grabbing stunt that further damages boxing's reputation?